So welcome to the show Tell Like It Is. I'm your host Mark Wasberg, and here's my co-host John Monks, my political analyst. Now there's been a heated debate about immigration laws. The question is, why do we have immigration laws in the first place? Well, I'm going to tell you why. To keep the criminals, the deaf and dumb, and the mentally retarded and so forth out of our country. It's not being discriminated against, John. Who wants to support people that cannot work and pay taxes? This is the bottom line of the government's rules. This is why we have immigration laws, to keep the criminals out.
America is a country of immigrants, of lawful immigrants. They came in mostly a lot through Ellis Island and by other means through lawful means. You cannot have a free and secure and open society where you have open borders with other countries, because every hooligan or anybody who has ill intent can go right across that border, come into this country, put a gun into somebody's nose, rob them, murder them, do whatever they want, and there's nothing we can do about it because there's just too many. You must have secure borders in order to have a secure country.
Well, we know for a fact the United States government is not doing their job to protecting the borders. Now, for what I can understand is under the Constitution, if the government fails to protect us from criminals, that we have the right to bear arms and protect ourselves.
That is correct.
Now, that's the law. So any citizen of the United States could turn in an illegal alien to the police department and have them arrested.
That is called a citizen's arrest, and it is your right.
But the problem is, now, for example, in Richmond, California, I've been fighting the city council and some of these activists, Andy Soto and John Marquez. They have been an advocate for allowing these illegal aliens to stay in Richmond, working and driving illegally. Matter of fact, John, the Richmond City Council has passed about 5 resolutions to allow these illegal aliens, especially the Latinos from Mexico, to work, to drive illegally. They have tried to stop the federal government for enforcing labor laws. And I went to the city council, John, and I mean, we was arguing left and right. I said, you have the right to let these people be criminals and to work and not pay their taxes and live and drive illegally? This is what this city council has signed resolutions stopping the police department from doing this.
That's exactly right. And this is a backlash from the civil rights era where Richmond, being mostly minority, black, Hispanic, and so forth, have had problems with huge amount of discrimination, which is clearly wrong. And they tend to expand these concepts to illegal immigrants, and I say this is equally wrong.
Yeah, but John, the problem is, but these activists, especially John Marquez, who was a former city council member, remember in 2007 when they had the checkpoints to stop criminals from driving around with AK-47s and Uzis and MAC-10s for killing people and checking on parole violators? So they set up the checkpoints, right?
Yes.
And what happened was the police were cracking down on illegal aliens driving without no insurance, without no valid California driver's license. So what happened was, so the Latino activists, especially Andy Soto, went to John Marquez, who was a city council member at the time, and they put pressure on the police chief to stop the checkpoints. Now, after a meeting with John Marquez and the police chief, Christopher Magnus, in 2007, the checkpoints were stopped. And Richmond had 47 homicides that year. Now, this is what I call the Richmond City Council interfering with police work, because they have no right to tell the law enforcement to allow these illegal aliens, Latinos especially, to work and drive illegally. Matter of fact, it was last year that the city council tried to pass a resolution stopping the federal government, ICE, from coming in and arresting illegal workers. So in other words, the city council tried to stop it by favoring these illegal aliens working illegally. John, if any good prosecutor would have these people in court, they will throw them in jail.
Yeah, well, this is where we have one country, but one country divided. You have Richmond, which wants to welcome illegal immigrants, and you have other places such as Phoenix or Tulsa, Oklahoma, that wants to keep illegal immigrants out, and for good reasons, because they've had a a huge influx of immigration, and along with it, crime, drugs, rapes, molestations, things of this nature.
Because what they're doing, John, they're building tunnels to come up through, they're building tunnels from Mexico into the United States to smuggle drugs, to smuggle illegal aliens. Now the question is, every American citizen have to have a social security number. And when you work, you have to pay taxes. You don't have to have a driver's license, and you don't have to be an American citizen to have a driver's license. But see, sometime earlier this year, in 2011, the City Council has passed a resolution, an ordinance, which is law, that you have to have an ID card. It was specially pushed by these illegal aliens and Andy DeSoto and John Marquez. Now, according to the Richmond City Council, they're going to issue these fraudulent ID cards with no background checks whatsoever, so the illegal aliens could have the same rights as an American citizen. And yet, they're going to try to open up bank accounts with that card, John. Even the Richmond Police Department, the Chief Christopher Magnus, even sponsored these fraudulent ID cards. It passed, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere, John, because the city has no right to issue fraudulent ID cards and pass an ordinance where you have to have that ID card.
Yeah, well, it does seem a bit of a stretch, and it definitely runs afoul with federal law when it comes to immigration and so on and so forth. It almost seems like the city of Richmond is complicit with illegal immigration. Now, a lot of these cards came as a result of a backlash of immigrants having problems with check cashing places where they were getting 10% charge to cash or check or some such thing. So they wanted to have bank accounts, and the bank wouldn't allow them to have a bank account without valid ID. Well, this is something that the feds have to solve. This is not something for the city of Richmond.
And the city of Richmond does not have no right to try to stop the federal government for forcing federal law. This is what they're trying to do, John. We know for a fact that Governor Jerry Brown is favoring these illegal aliens, especially Latinos, staying in the state of California because he signed the DREAM Act. Now, the DREAM Act is a nightmare for U.S. Constitution, but it's a heavenly dream for the illegal aliens because that gives them status to roll in colleges and put the American citizens behind because they have first choice. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. And now Jerry Brown tried to pass another law that he will not give no information to the federal government on illegal aliens, the drug cartel, all these Latino gangs, to the federal government if they commit a crime. So in other words, if an illegal alien gets busted in the state of California, Jerry Brown will not give the federal government any information if this person is wanted by Mexico, he's in the drug cartel, he's wanted for murder, he's wanted for rape, child molesters, and so forth.
This is where you have an incidence where you have a governor who is more interested in politics than law. Governor Brown is a lawyer. He knows better than that. He went ahead and passed the DREAM Act anyway. So what does the DREAM Act do? It says that an illegal immigrant can jump across the border, go to college, get a student loan, go through college, get a degree, go back to Mexico, and guess who's going to be on the hook for all that tuition and stuff that's paid? It's going to be you.
Well, actually, they're not going to receive any federal money because they're here illegally. But what I can't understand is the federal government's letting this happen. And we know for a fact some of these politicians out there in Congress had hired illegal aliens to work for them, John. Remember after the Vietnam War when President Gerald Ford let all the Viet Cong come into America illegally? They gave them color TV sets, they gave them welfare, they gave them unemployment, they gave them Social Security, medical and dental. They bought them brand new cars, homes. They let them live in apartments for free. But they never did that for the American people. They did more for these illegal Vietnamese than they did for the American citizens. And now what you have a little Vietnam in San Jose. You have a little Tijuana in San Jose. See, this is what they're doing. These activists are forcing the federal government to break law for them, so they have the right to break the law. But the American citizens, we have to obey the law. Matter of fact, on the city council, when I went to the city council meetings, not one American citizen that ever went in front of that city council and said that we have the right to drive illegally, that we have the right to work illegally. It was all illegal aliens, the Latinos, and these little Latinos activists. Now, we know for a fact that Fidel Castro, the leader of Cuba, was a very smart man, John. What he did was he opened up the prisons and let all the criminals and the Looney Tunes and psychos into the United States. And Jimmy Carter went, sure, come on in the United States. We'll take care of you.
Mm-hmm. Then he spent the next several months rounding them up and trying to get Fidel Castro to accept them back. And finally, under enormous pressure, Fidel Castro finally accepted them back. But for a long period of time, the crime rate all over Florida ballooned through the roof.
And now the problem is, now since Ronald Reagan became president, he let all these people from India come in. There was buying gas stations. There was taking over the cab business. Mm-hmm. I work for some of these people, man. These people are horrible to work for. The question is, I just can't see how in the world that the federal government could allow such criminal activity. We are spending millions and millions of dollars to keep these illegal aliens in jail. Mm-hmm. Why all they have to do is just load them up. I don't care how you have to do it. If you have to load them up in freight cars, you have to load them in pickup trucks, send them all back. Because, John, we need to seal the border off. I said, the problem is we are losing our heritage.
That's absolutely right, and I quite agree with that. We need to get the illegals either legal or get them out, one way or the other. And there is a difference between the Vietnamese and the Mexican immigrant. The Vietnamese immigrants mostly were a very hard-working, educated class. The Mexican immigrant was largely uneducated, and of the immigrants who snuck across the border, largely criminal.
Yeah, but see what I'm saying, John, they're sneaking across the border and they claim that they have the right of all American citizens. They have the right to vote, they have the right to medical care, they have they have the right to our legal system, which now this human rights thing, I talked to some police officers and some activists, now they have human rights, but the question is, what human rights do you have? This is what I'm trying to say. Does a human have the right to break the law of the land? Do they have the right to come in here illegally and say, hey, now I'm an American citizen? Now what about all the other people that stand in the line that gets visas and try to going through the process, and yet they're being cheated out, John. They have to wait 2, 3, 5 years sometimes to become an American citizen. Why these Latinos, all they do is sneak across the border and say, hey, I'm here, I have the right to be here.
It was the Supreme Court of the state of California had ordered a reduction in the inmates in our prisons because of prison overpopulation, and it was done with very good merit because the prisons are horrible. People are walking around in their own excrement. That's how bad it is, because there's just too many in too few cells.
But see, what I can understand is here you have the federal government ruling to the state of California that you have to get rid of some of these people in prison.
That's
so
right.
Now Jerry Brown has a plan that he's going to send some of these people from state prison to the county, right?
That's exactly right. But I'm telling you simply this, that if we simply got rid of all the illegal, specifically Mexicans, our prison population would be over immediately. That's how big of a problem it is. This is how serious it is. It isn't a case of, well, we just don't like immigrants. It isn't like that at all. We don't want criminals here, and you have to have a secure border. That's the way the real world operates. Without secure borders, you have crime. Pure and simple. You do not have a secure country.
As soon as you cross that border illegally, you are a criminal.
That's right.
See, this is why they ship you back, because you don't have the human right to come into my country illegally. Now, let's get back to this prison thing on state of California. Now, Jerry Brown's going to get some of these lightweight criminals, not the murders or the cycles and stuff like that, but the other, drunk driving, the low-profile prisoners to the county. But the problem is, now he's trying to con the voters in passing legislation, in passing some type of initiative that they're going to raise taxes because the money's going to go to the county, right? But anytime you pass a tax in the state of California, it goes up to the state automatically. And now Jerry Brown is trying to say that the county has its own money. Now they're going to start laying off all these guards and stuff like that, which is not going to happen. You see, this is what I'm saying. You have to start fighting back because we're losing our heritage. Now you see all over the United States, you see Islam setting up in New York City. You have all these type of religions popping up everywhere. Like I said, you have Mexico and Richmond. You have Vietnam in San Jose. You have India in San Jose, especially in El Sobrante, California. That's all you see is people from India. But see, the problem is they don't believe in our heritage, John. On 4th of July, how many people from India? How many people from Mexico? How many people from Vietnam waving the glory flag on 4th of July? You never see it. You see a lot of African Americans and whites and a few Latinos that are real true Americans. But this is why we're losing our heritage. Because we lose the United States, we lose the world, people. It's the United States that's keeping this world in check.
That's right, and very few immigrants can appreciate the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the ratification of the Constitution of the United States. Very few of them have experienced the kind of hardships that this country has gone through in order to develop a country based on freedom, based on liberty, based on human rights, based on loving one another, based on Judeo-Christian ethic, where we have businesses, but the businesses are conducted on principles, meaning I will not defraud you, I will not cheat you, I will not charge you for a product or a service fraudulently. Everything we negotiate for, all our contracts are binding. It doesn't even matter what the courts say. When you sign a contract or make an agreement or a handshake, your agreement holds true. This is a concept which is not believed in by a lot of people from other countries. They say that's naive, that's stupid, that's not the way the world works. Yeah, it's not the way their world works, but it's the way this world worked for a long time in the United States for centuries, and now it is slowly eroding, and our business ethic is degrading, and you can see it all over the place. And it is because of immigrants from other countries who do not share Judeo-Christian ethics.
What gives the right Governor Jerry Brown, their Mayor of Richmond, Gail McLaughlin, to tell the federal government that they have the right to aid embedding illegal aliens? This is what I don't understand, John. These people took an oath to our Constitution to defend it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. But they are an advocate for these illegal aliens, especially Latinos, to come into our country illegally, to stop the police department for enforcing the law. This is what Jerry Brown has done. This is what Gail McLaughlin has done. Then the Richmond City Council, almost 2/3 of the City Council has favored these illegal aliens and Latinos being in our country. And not one of them has voted for them, and they don't pay their taxes. Matter of fact, there was a bill I think they're trying to pass in California. As long as they work and pay their taxes, they can stay here in the United States. So in other words, they're just selling us out for a buck, which is totally wrong. What I'm saying, you American people are going to have to realize and start waking up. Go back and do your homework on immigration. Go down to 23rd Street in Richmond, California. The Latinos are taking the whole thing over. They're waving the Latino flag, John.
This is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, the lack of the Judeo-Christian ethic. Richmond, being a land of mostly of a lot of immigrants, maybe not mostly, but a lot of immigrants, has such sympathy on the plight of the immigrant. And the plight of the immigrant is indeed very, very harsh. No question about it. But we have a city council which does not honor their pledges when they pledge to defend and support the Constitution of the United States. They do not honor their pledge to support the laws of the United States, and they think that they're going to respond to a higher law, and that higher law is called fairness, whatever fairness is. And the fair thing in their minds is we must allow poor immigrants from third world countries to willy-nilly come into this country and enjoy the benefits of America, even though they weren't born here, even though they never worked here. And another factor of this is there is no human being that's loyal to a country any more than the people who were born in that country. My loyalty lies with America. Why? I was born here. When I go to Mexico, or I go to Brazil, or I go to Peru, or some other country, I don't feel the loyalty towards your country. I don't feel the loyalty towards your system. Their systems needs to be fixed. And this is the work that all the immigrants should be doing. They should be working on their own systems, especially the corruption in Mexico, especially the corruption in Peru, which is rampant, and the corruption all over Brazil, which is rampant. These are corruptions that need to be fixed, and they can fix them. Many of these kind of problems have been fixed in Chile. Well, they can lead the way and be a beautiful, shining example to all the rest of the Americas.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, the bottom line is, America, that we need to ship these people back.
That's right.
They don't have no right to come here illegally. We are spending billions and billions of dollars. The politicians are selling their soul out for a buck. It's the American people who vote and put these people into office, not the illegal aliens. So this is why we need to pressure the United States government and send them all back where they belong. If you want to come into my country, you have to do it the legal way, or don't come at all. If I went to Mexico, John, I have to obey their laws. Just because I'm American gives me the right, if I went to Mexico or Argentina or Peru or El Salvador, to break the law because I'm an American? And yet these illegal aliens, these activists, are pressuring our lawmakers to break the law for them, while the American citizen has to obey the law.
Hello, this is the IIAP, the Illegal Immigration Assistance Program, a taxpayer-funded division of OTNUT. For Spanish, press 1, Portuguese 2, Arabic 3, Farsi 4, French 5, Swahili 6, German 7, Italian 8, and if you insist on English, please stand by. If you're thinking about illegal immigration, be careful when you're choosing the nation, because breaking the law in some countries is frowned upon. Imagine that. Sneak into China, they'll call you a spy and ship you to Mongolia till you die. And in the Sudan, they'll hang you and the camel you rode in on. Yeah, and don't go hiking and enter Iran, or you might never be heard from again. And in Mexico, you might face a firing squad. Yeah, and forget all about going to North Korea. That's a great example of a bad idea. So when it comes down to it, there's only one option you got. Yeah, come to the U.S.A. There's no penalty to pay should you get caught illegally immigrating. Come to the U.S.A. It will be your lucky day, 'cause when you get in, there's lots of goodies waiting. Like health care, welfare, free education, help with your voter registration and driver's license and credit cards and license plates for your car. Lots of jobs for you to do, and employers who'll turn a blind eye to. Come to the U.S.A. No need to worry about the Constitution. We'll help you start a house of prostitution, if that's the kind of work that you want to do. You see, those gringo infidels are crazy. They'll give citizenship to your new baby. So you see, there's really only one choice for you. Come to the USA. There's no penalty to pay should you get caught illegally immigrating. I said, come to the U.S.A. It will be your lucky day, cause when you get in, there's lots of goodies waiting. Yeah, you get public housing and cable TV and food stamps and even government cheese. The borders are a swinging door. Go home for a visit and come back for more. There's sanctuary and amnesty. Bring the whole family eventually. Yeah, come to the U.S.A.
I placed this item along with Vice Mayor Ritterman on the agenda. This item is regarding an issue that was brought to my attention by Reverend Phil Lawson, who's associated with Richmond Vision, and I know Richmond Vision is concerned about this as well. This is an issue that is really causing a lot of concern for our immigrant communities because although we know that we passed a resolution in this city to make sure that our police department does not cooperate with ICE, Immigration and Customs.
I worked for 30 plus years in probation, and it's a known fact, if you don't want to do the time, then don't do the crime. And it's a known fact that any time you're arrested in the state of California or the United States, there is a fingerprint process. And that applies to everyone, male, female, or whatever. And there they determine your background and what the crime that you've committed before, if there is a record. And it seems to me that if, in fact, you are violating the law, whether it's immigration by being here illegally, or whether you are assault with a deadly weapon, or whether there's a warrant in Chicago, New York, or wherever in California when you're arrested, it is the responsibility of the law enforcement agency to act accordingly, which means you send that person back to whoever state that has a warrant out for their arrest. And I cannot understand when you take the oath and you're going to follow the Constitution of the United States and California, then if you don't want to follow that, then don't take the oath. Resign your office. They are good, strong, law-abiding Latinos in this community that respect the law. They came here legally, and they intend to stay here legally. And there are many of them that don't support so-called policy of what you're preparing.
I've gone completely out of my mind. They're coming to take me away to the funny part.
We ought to concentrate on doing our job, and I will not be a party of this continued polarization of our community.
And I think we should vote. Did you accept the amendment? Yes, the amendment is accepted that Councilmember Viramontes.
The motion passes.
They're coming to take me away, ho ho hee hee, ha ha, to the happy home with trees and flowers and chirping birds and basket weavers who sit and smile and twiddle their thumbs and toes, and they're